Hey guys, Reuben Williams here, founder of SportsGrad. Back in the day, I landed a job at Cricket Australia on the Monday after my final university exam. And then 3 years later, when COVID hit and my job was made redundant, rather than looking for work for months on end, I was headhunted into a role that doubled my salary. I'm not telling you this to brag, I'm telling you because there is a method to it. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. For example, Lucas Viana, one of our members, called the SportsGrad method a cheat code, and another member, Sasha Brahim, she called it magic. And honestly, I'll take that. Now, most people spend years trying to break into sport and never figure out why it is not working. And so the reason that this podcast exists is to change that. Every week, I'm going to share some real moments from real coaching calls that are unfiltered, unscripted, so you get a taste for the kind of work that has helped people land over 800 roles in sport and counting. If you're ready to stop guessing and start moving in the right direction and go after the career that you've always wanted, apply for the SportsGrad Method program at sportsgrad.com.au. Now, let's get into it. So, guys, the reason why this is so important is because the impression that you make on an individual has a potential to determine whether you know someone for the next 10 minutes or the next 10 years. And if you go about it in the wrong way, sometimes you might as well be better off staying at home. And so I want to tell you about a story about a guy who I met a couple of years ago now. And to be honest, I can't even remember his name because of the impression that he made on me. But I got introduced to this guy by a friend of a friend. They said, "Hey, Ruben, are you happy to catch up with him and, help give him some tips on how to break into sport?" And I said, "Sure, no worries. Happy to give him some time." So we met up at the cafe, and it was pretty clear from like the first, 60 seconds that he was unprepared. I don't know if someone forced him into it. I don't know how motivated he was to kind of even go after his dreams. But he arrived there not really knowing much about myself or what I do or what he wanted to do. And during the conversation, I did my best to help him as much as I could. And then I said to him, like, whatever you do, like, just let me know if something helped. Because if someone's giving you their time, I don't mind giving away my time. There are many people who don't mind giving away their time, but they just want to know that it was spent valuably and that it was actually put to use. And so I said to this guy, like, here's a whole bunch of tips. Go away and use them. Just let me know how you go. And I never heard from him again, to the point where now, if I was to cross him in the street or, he was to come up on LinkedIn or somehow into my world again, I'd be like, "Oh, mate, you're that guy who showed up, was unprepared, asked me some very sort of, straightforward, blank questions, and then I never heard from again." So what we want to do is make sure that you are not creating that sort of impression on the people that you are going out to meet in the world of sport. We want to make sure that you are coming across in a way that makes people want to remember you, keep you top of mind, and refer you for jobs over and over again. Now, the reason why this is so important is because of the hidden job market, which most of you should be very well versed in by now, which is where 80% of jobs in the hidden jobs in the sports industry live. And we want to make sure that you are not only thinking about the jobs in the open market, which only accounts for 20% of jobs in sport, and that pressures you into a position where you're starting to think about Plan B. We want to make sure that the hidden job market is an option for you. And so the way that we're going to do that, as we've been learning through the SportsGrad method, is number one, create an online presence using typically LinkedIn to kind of draw people to who you are and warm people up to the idea of you. Secondly, use your content to open doors so you can build a relationship with people, connect with them, which is what we're going to talk about today. And then off the back of that, start to pitch yourself for jobs or start to apply for jobs from a position of strength where they actually know who you are and they trust you because of the relationship that you've built. So just a refresher, the reason why we're doing that is because there is a disconnect between the way that, job hunters typically look for jobs and the way that recruiters are going out there in the world to job hunt. So executive general manager or former executive general manager of people and culture at Cricket Australia, Alison Robertson, said to me that when she's looking for a job, or when she's looking for a role, the first person that she usually goes to is anyone who's in her network. If she doesn't know if she can't find anyone there, then she goes to her network's network. If she can't find anyone there, then she'll do like a LinkedIn recruiter search. And then finally, as an absolute last resort, then she will go to the job boards. And having had a friend who went for a head of digital commercial strategy type role at Cricket Australia recently, he missed out on the job, but the person who got the job was basically flagged for this position a long time ago. And that is because, yes, Cricket Australia might have had to go through the process to, tick all the right boxes and make sure they're going through the right recruitment processes. But the chief commercial officer had a guy in mind months ago, opened up the job, and then ended up selecting the guy that he had in mind already, which was based on who you know. So we want to make sure that you are that person who's getting selected for jobs months in advance, even when sporting bodies have to go through the tick and cross process of a formalized recruitment process. So the way that we do that is by making our way down the talent funnel, and the goal is to get to the end. So we want to make sure that you are exiting out of the consciousness of people who organizations don't know, moving into the group of people that they know of, and then ideally getting down into the pointy end of the spectrum of people that they know well. And that is where the majority of the jobs, majority of hires are made. And so we know that we can do this on paper, we can do this in person, and we can do online. And so today is all about how we can move you from that online relationships to in-person relationships. And then once you're there, how to make the most of those opportunities so that, you can continue to maintain that in-person relationship as well. So what we're going to do is move you from perhaps a state where you guys are going about building relationships in an industry ready fashion and to a point where you are doing so in an industry wanted fashion. So when you're doing it in an industry ready way, you might go to a networking event. Maybe you've come to a SportsGrad meetup and you thought, cool, like job done, like my career's sorted. And you think that that's enough. Or maybe you're out there on LinkedIn kind of sending cold DMs and you just kind of expect that anyone will respond to you because, that's how LinkedIn works. Or maybe you just show up to a coffee like old mate who I dealt with and just expect to be remembered. The reality is that none of those things are enough. What industry wanted people do is they build a brand that people want to respond to. So the number of people who they are reaching increases. They prepare for those meetings extensively, so it's worth everybody's time. And they know deep down that the follow-up is actually where the magic happens, okay? What happens after that coffee chat for the time afterwards is really where the magic happens. So you might be thinking, this is nerve-wracking, networking's terrifying, could be fun if you're Eleanor, or enjoyable if you're Josh, maybe. But, if it's daunting, spooking, tiring, etc., then here's a few things to keep in mind that may be present in your head at the moment. So the first one is that it is okay to be a beginner. You may think that you suck at networking or you're bad at it, but the reality is you are just a beginner and you're just getting started, and that is totally okay. So for me, when I was getting started with networking with people in the sports industry, first time I reached out to someone for a coffee catch up, I pulled up my phone, I had their phone number, I tried to mentally prepare myself to call them and ended up walking around my backyard for the next 25 minutes trying to gather up the courage to press call. Eventually I had to throw my finger down into the phone to make the call and then ask them for coffee. Now I've got no problems. But back then I wasn't just bad at networking, I was a beginner. And so if you're at that point at the moment, don't stress. It's where everyone starts. So second point is it is totally okay to just listen and ask questions. So if the next step is what's stopping you from reaching out to people and you're forecasting to a time where you're on Zoom or you're over coffee and you think, oh, well, even if this happens, what am I going to say? Even if you say nothing, that is totally fine. Lena Staropoli, a friend of mine from Partnerships, who is at Netball Australia these days, she said that she is under no illusion that when she's catching up for people to offer career advice, that she's under no illusion that she's going to be offering more than she receives. And that's totally okay. She's willing to do that. People are willing to pay it forward. So when I eventually got onto the phone with this guy called Wayne and asked for a coffee, we met up and he spoke to me for about 45 minutes. And I think I contributed about 2 minutes to that entire conversation. But at the end of that conversation, when I got home that night, he sent me a message and said, "Hey, Reuben, lovely to chat with you. Do you want to catch up at the same time next week?" And I was like, what do you mean? I've done nothing to deserve this. I literally sat there and nodded my head and asked 1 or 2 questions, but you want to catch up again? Sure, would love to. When we caught up again the next week, he offered me a role as operations manager at Paran Junior Football Club, where I had to make sure that the that the under 13 black coach Nathan Buckley had his level 1 AFL coaching accreditation. And since then, Wayne Oswald's become a mentor of mine for the last 8 or 9 years now. Third one is make sure that you shoot your shot, because the reality is the worst thing they can do is say no. And so if you stop yourself from sending a message, you're just going to limit the amount of opportunities that come your way. Because when people say to me, hey, Reuben, my career's stuck, I'm not really sure what I'm doing, the first thing I ask them is, show me your numbers. And what I mean by that is, tell me how many messages per week you are sending to people in sport. Most of the time, like, oh, I sent 1 or 2 this week, and I'm still stressing over what to say to number 3. It's like, cool. We literally need to 10x that. Like, I'm talking like get that up to 20 or 30 messages per week. And so that you can actually have like a substantial pool of people who know you. If we think back to James Marsh, for the people who have watched the recording with James, where I asked him about how he made the most out of this program, it came through volume. And that started with having this mindset of, the worst I can say is no. Finally, if this last one's getting in the way, let's remove that now. Yes, networking can be uncomfortable and intimidating, but so is not being employed in the sports industry. So you've got to figure out which one is more painful for you and take action off the back of that. Hopefully being unemployed is more painful than, the idea of networking. But once we can get you sending those messages and in front of people, I guarantee you it'll become much, much easier very, very quickly. Cool. So what we're going to run through here is essentially 3 things. They are how to create meetings with people, how to prepare and hold a meeting, and then how to follow up and stay top of mind so that you can actually get hired into the hidden job market. So first thing we need to understand when we are networking in sport is actually understand, why would anyone want to meet with us? And so there are 5 key reasons why people want to network. Number 1 is to do business. Number 2 is to make a hire. Number 3 is to learn from others. Number 4 is to pay it forward. And number 5 is to elevate their work. And so when you can pick one of these, then it gives people a reason to connect with you. And so typically 4 and 5 is where you guys are going to be playing. If someone is feeling generous enough to give you their time, that's great. You can lean on them paying it forward. But as we touched on with the headhunted system, creating a connection vehicle that elevates their work can also be an incredibly effective way to get time with hard to reach people. So before we do this though, we want to make sure that we actually have a profile worth responding to. Because whenever anyone reaches out to me, first thing I do is look at their profile and I scan them up and down and see, who's this person? And you've probably done the same thing. Like if someone has sent you a message, you don't just want to like deal with, faceless random people on the internet. You want to make sure you're dealing with someone reasonable. So what you do is you look at their profile. You look at their photo, you look at their cover image, you see what experience they've got, where in the world are they, and you make an assessment on whether this person is worth responding to or not. And so that same sort of judgment is being cast onto you every time you put yourself out there. So before you send a single message, make sure your profile is squeaky clean. And so that means, having clean photos, clean headlines, featured media added to your profile as well. So for those of you who have started to post on LinkedIn, pinning that to the top of your profile just makes you look like a sophisticated LinkedIn user. And if you really want to work backwards over time, like Tom Blazek did, where he thought about, all right, I'm going to put out 10 posts in a series about athlete well-being. I know the 10th post is going to be the one that I pin to my profile, because if that lives there, then it's like a directory to all the other posts that he's done. You can get clever like that to do things like this. You've got your about section filled out, all your experiences listed, and everything is up to date. And ideally, you've got at least 3 bits of content out there already. So if you're thinking about, if you've gone through the headhunted system and you're wondering what to post, or you're kind of holding yourself back a little bit, let this be a motivator to start doing that, to make your catch-ups more effective. Okay. Because if you go out and put up, 1 or even 2 posts before you send your next message, what it does is it's going to, give an impression of you to whoever you're reaching out to. And I guarantee you it's going to increase the response rate of your messages. Okay. So if you want to do that effectively, there's a module on it in school. Go to module 9 in the classroom, and watch this breakdown on 7 steps to create a killer LinkedIn profile. All right, guys, that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed that and got something out of it. If you want to learn directly from me and our other SportsGrad coaches who are working directly in the industry, then jump into the SportsGrad Method program. Once you're inside, you'll also get access to the entire SportsGrad Method curriculum that comes with a 90-day roadmap, so you know exactly what to do next. There is a step-by-step system to this. You do not have to think of what to do. We have thought of it all for you. Plus, you can tap into the SportsGrad network and get introductions to the people that might be hard to meet for you at the moment. Plus, you'll be surrounded by the wonderful SportsGrad community who are all helping each other get closer to their goals as well. So the results speak for themselves. Have a look at the website if you want to check it all out, but we'd love to see you inside and receive your application. See ya.